Welcome to the NT Zone. Today we're talking about something called from the Enneagram system. A lot of people don't realize this, and yet that's because a lot of people struggle with Enneagram history. And for whatever reason, the contemporary Enneagram has elements of the old Enneagram, but there's a lot that they've kind of moved on from because the Enneagram as we know it today was later established and formalized by psychologists who were largely trying to find a system roughly similar to the personality psychology questions asked by Keirsey, Dr. David Keirsey, Carl Jung, Isabel Myers, and so on. And they would also claim hundreds of years, thousands of years. No, that's the selling point. That's actually not true. It comes from Tsarist Russia and early Soviet times, when Gurdjieff and Opinsky taught people this esoteric system, which combined, I think it was Christianity, Judaism, not so much Judaism, but Christianity, Islam, and Hinduism, and took from the spiritual insights of each of these faiths and some elements of philosophy, brought it together with psychological knowledge to try to help people truly understand themselves to achieve what was called the fourth consciousness. Now, I might do a video on that later, the higher consciousnesses, because in this we're talking about the human machine having 7 different functions. Of course, we're only going to talk about 5 because the 6th and 7th functions have to do with higher states of consciousness. And I'm going to have to do more research on that in order to actually give you a confident answer on what I think it is so that we can use it. But giving you a quick introduction to why I think this is useful, in the Jungian system, you have 4 functions. Everyone knows about it who has dabbled in this stuff. Thinking, feeling, sensing, intuition. Divided further into introverted versus extroverted forms of those same things. In the Gurdjieff system, they're similar, but they're not quite the same. You have thinking, which is or intellect, feeling or emotion, instinctive function, or all inner working of the organism, the moving function, or all outer working of the organism, movement in space, and so on, and sex, the function of 2 principles of male and female, and all their manifestations. So, say right now, I just quoted from Opinsky because I think his brilliant psychology lectures to the Soviets was actually something that's pretty good, and he directly takes it from his teacher Gurdjieff. Now, the rest of this video I will be referencing Gurdjieff because I think Gurdjieff does a pretty decent job talking about this, and I think I can show you why and extract principles of typing from this. So, before we begin, let's say Enneagram is more almost materialistic in the sense that, yes, there is a higher consciousness and so on, but the body matters as much as the mind. The reason why is because in the system there are 4 minds, and they correspond to 4 of the functions: the thinking, the intellect, the head, which is in the head center, the feeling or the heart, the motive intellect, of course, which is in the heart center, instinct, which is gut basically, which is part of the inner side of the gut center. Moving, which is also in the gut. So you have all this neatly laid out for you. So you're pretty much seeing something that's actually really interesting. And I really don't see why Enneagram has either ignored this or gotten rid of it, other than the fact that the current day Enneagram system is not quite the same, but there's still a lot we can learn from this old system, although it's not so systematized. But we still have these principles, and I think these principles can still be used whether you're trying to understand yourself or someone else. So, starting with the first one, thinking. So Gurdjieff says, for most of us, it is clear what we mean by the thinking or intellectual function. Mental processes like forming representations and concepts, reasoning, comparisons, affirmations, negations, forming words, imagination. So we got a clear picture here. What you want to know is how do I use my thinking? Do I use it to a particular purpose? And of course, the answer is yes to that, because everyone uses things to a particular purpose. Do I enjoy thinking? Do I doubt a lot? Do I wonder a lot? Do I employ my imagination a lot? Of course, giving a few examples, I'm going to draw from the head triad to give you examples. The type 6 enjoys questioning things a lot because they are the more objective of the Enneagram. They are known mostly for their desire for security, but they want to know, okay, will this work? So a lot of times they're called the skeptic. They're also called the loyalist, but we're going to say, skeptic. So a lot of times they really are trying to boil things down to what can be known, because that's what they love, is what can be known. Type 7 uses imagination a lot, but they might also use, and of course, by the way, everyone uses all sorts of thinking, so just keep that in mind. So they enjoy using the imagination a lot. They want to have some type of activity in which they figure things out. They are very intelligent in that sense. But their key is trying to get rid of their boredom. So that's how they use their thinking. They come up with these concepts which they think about in their heads. They might write books. They might play music. They're learning stuff to keep their minds active and occupied, because otherwise they would be bored to tears. And someone who's bored to tears is not really all that great. I mean, like, they might prank you, for example, which is okay, but not everyone likes to be pranked all the time. Now, 5s. Okay, I'm a 5, so I'm going to talk to this. What I use thinking for is basically everything. I prefer my thinking. I like to gather information. I like to think about that information. I like to reason from what knowledge I have to discover more things, because, well, that just makes me happy. Which brings me to 2, feeling. So Gurdjieff says on feeling, the second function is feeling or emotions, including joy, sorrow, fear, astonishment, and so on. We think it is clear how emotions differ from thought, but we often mix them up in our ordinary thinking and speaking. Okay, so we have right here. I'm going to go use the same method I use for thinking by looking at the different center and how they use it. So 2s really are people who really love to help people out. They will feel sad if someone does not accept their help. They will feel even upset, angry if someone doesn't accept their help. They enjoy seeing other people appreciate them, and so they go out and help people out. 4s, they enjoy being individuals. They will get upset if someone interrupts their desires for individuality. They will use their feelings to create beautiful pieces of art, poetry, music. They're, in a sense, you might even say a 7 and a 4 are very closely connected, a lot of times by what they enjoy. which a 4 would get offended by this because they are individuals, and of course they are individuals. 4 W5s they like originality of thought, and they also, just like 5s, enjoy um, basically cracking open a book, reading it, and getting new knowledge in which they can craft their unique perspectives. The other one, the 3s, they're really motivated to getting stuff done. They're so happy when they master skills. They are sad, they're disappointed if they suck at something. So when you're using the thinking function, you have to look at how people think and what they employ it to. When you use the feeling function, look at how you feel or someone else feels, and what triggers someone, what makes them happy, what makes them sad, and so on and so on and so on. The next one is, well, the next two are going to be a little bit difficult, so I might actually treat them as one. Besides, they're in the same center anyway. And I will stop using references to the types so much. So moving, all outer movement and so on. So I'm going to have to say that the two other movements, functions, the moving and instinctive, take longer to understand because they are not rightly divided in ordinary psychology. The words instinct and instinctive generally are used in the wrong sense, particularly as applied to external function that are in reality moving functions, sometimes emotional. The moving function governs all external movements, such as walking, writing, speaking, and eating. This is called external movements. That in ordinary language are called instinctive, such as catching a falling object without thinking. The moving function is also responsible for useless inner movements like imagining, daydreaming, talking to oneself, talking for the sake of talking's sake, and generally all uncontrolled manifestations. The instinctive function includes all inner work of the organism, such as digestion, breathing, blood circulation, the five senses, all physical feeling, that is sensations, which are either pleasant or unpleasant, and all reflexes, including laughter and yawning. The difference between moving and instinctive functions is clear and can be easily understood. None of the moving functions is inherent, and one has to learn them all. As a child learns to walk or to write, on the other hand, all instinctive functions, without exception, are inherent and do not need to be learned. Okay, so thinking about the type, this is kind of hard to talk about the one, but I know I said I wouldn't reference these so much, but this is the difficulty. So I'm going to ignore the one for this reason. So when you think about the 8, think about them in the sense of the fight response of adrenaline. Think about the 9, think about them as the flight response. So one goes up and is ready to take on the world, to tackle things. The other one is ready to just retreat and get out of there because they don't want to fight. But the one, of course, the reason why I didn't want to talk about the one is because they're moralists. They want things to be just right. This might actually be explained to a certain degree by, and of course all the different types can be explained by all manner of these 4 functions, but I think for this one in particular, they might feel some type of innate disturbance if something's not quite right. And that is often called gut feeling. So, morality and so on. The 5th function, the sex. The last one I'm going to talk about. Now, this itself can be applied to all the functions and all the types. When you look at how each of the different Enneagram types are applied between male and female, or at least people who identify as male or identify as female, there are certain societal expectations that society has for men and women. Now, this will, of course, impact how these functions are distributed and to a certain degree, and how they're used, which would impact the type. So when you're looking at a female 5, they're going to be different from the male 5. Female 4 is different from the male 4, and so on and so on and so on. And how you identify this is look at how someone is reacting according to the societal standards. Now, I was tempted to research into male and female roles of Tsarist Russia, but no, that's not really useful for this video because, let's be honest, each society is a little bit different. Gender roles change with time too. So that is kind of pointless in a sense, but just look at how people interact with the gender roles of society as you try to understand what type they are. And that way you could actually uniquely type a female or male differently. Of course, talking about transgendered people, I think the same can apply to them to a certain degree. That transgender people are trying their best because they identify as one gender and not the other. That they would accept the gender roles of this other gender, which does not reflect biological sex. So I would still identify, as this person's transgender. And then from that, you could apply your analysis a little bit differently. And I think with this, and this is a long video, I know, but like, comment, subscribe. I'll catch you in the next one. I hope you enjoyed it. But just remember, all these are really useful considerations when you're typing someone, whether it's in the Enneagram or in the MBTI, QRC system, Socionic. Even if you don't do the Enneagram, just apply it and see how it goes. It can interpret very well, you'll find. And let me know in the comments, has any of this helped you by applying similar ideas? What's your experience with typing? And thank you for watching and making it to the end of this video.